Give it. There we go. Okay, so please state your full name, your school, your current year in school, and your associated region.
Yeah.
Also, before you start,
Okay.
Michelle, make sure you click on his portrait so that his screen is going to be displayed
Yes,
at the
I
front.
have that.
Cool, just making sure.
All right. So just whenever.
Yeah. Do you want me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Okay. So your full name, your school, your current year in school, and your affiliated region.
All right. Yeah. So my full name is Andrew Nguyen, and my school is McMaster University. I actually just recently graduated from my master's at McMaster University, and my affiliated region is Eastern Canada. Yeah.
All right. So if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself and what your involvement was with VSA. Sorry.
Yeah, so just a brief like little introduction about myself is I actually was born in Guelph, Ontario. It's kind of like a small city in it's Ontario, Canada, and it's really my Vietnamese involvement there wasn't that much, and my sister, she was actually involved with the VSA at her university, and she recommended me to get involved with VSA, kind of get in touch with my roots and my culture. So then I was involved with the VSA ever since my first year at McMaster University. So I first started as a general member, and then my second year I joined as a second year representative, and then I was the finance VP. And then following that, I was the co-president of my school's VSA. So then after I was done with like the VSA at my school, I didn't really want to just stop there. So I wanted to be involved with my region's VSA. So I got involved with UVSA Ontario. So I was elected as the finance VP. And then after a year of being on the E board, I was elected as the co-president of UVSA Ontario. So then that was just a brief like introduction of my involvement with the VSAs. So outside of VSAs, I really enjoy like nature. I enjoy like going on for walks, just getting in touch with my like Zen, just like being one with nature. And then I also am into like photography, and I'm a really big foodie. So I actually have like a food Instagram. So I pretty much go on these like foodie adventures with my friends and kind of um, delve into the lifestyle of a foodie, but then also kind of look into like the history of food and writing about that. So I like knowing what I'm eating and just getting more information about that. Yeah, so that's just everything.
Cool. That's really awesome. So the next question is, what is your favorite dance move? And if you could show us a 15-second example of it.
Did you say dance move?
I did say
Uh,
dance move.
um, yeah, so in terms of dancing, I'm really like challenged with dance moves. So my go-to is just kind of like like fist pumping. I just like do that um, and just like rock my body a lot. But I also like doing kind of like weird quirky moves, kind of like the robot. So I'll just like do that move when I'm dancing. So when I am, yeah, my go-to is kind of like the robot and trying to be quirky and being that like person that like kind of breaks that awkward moment during dancing. But yeah, that's my go-to move.
That works for me. Um, so what makes you want to apply to be a family leader?
Yeah, so this is kind of I don't know if you viewed my video submission, but I it's kind of like a long process. It's like a combination of a lot of things. So it actually started with my McMaster VSA involvement, and before I was on the club, I was really I kept to myself a lot, and I would really try to like get to know the Vietnamese culture. And before my involvement with the club, it had a reputation of being a really um, kind of partying club rather than like the culture or like the social interactions. So being involved with that VSA, I kind of wanted to um, make the club appeal more to a general audience, a broad audience, and not that kind of specific demographic. And throughout my years of being involved with MVSA, the McMaster VSA Association, we kind of developed this family kind of feel for it. And I still maintain contact with a lot of VSA members from my university. And even after my involvement with MVSA, I still am in contact with the reps and the incoming exec teams. There's actually like kind of like a family tree thing, and I'm known as like the alumni. So it's really nice going to their general meetings every year and then kind of being like, oh, like I used to be on MVSA, and then they would refer to me as their like great grandpa or like great great grandpa or like grandpa. So it's really it's not only that, but I kind of like serve as a mentor to them. So I'm always willing to help out, always willing to like be there for emotional support when I can. And that kind of like inspired me to pursue more things within my region, such as being on UBSA Ontario. And then following that, I kind of talked to a lot of alumni. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Catherine Yung or
Mhm.
yeah, so I talked with Catherine Yung, talked with Dan Yang and Kimberly Tran, the people that I believe attended UNAVSA 12 and 13. They told me about this UNAVSA experience and how it like shaped them as individuals and leaders in their region. And they kind of inspired me to pursue UBSA Ontario, but not only that, but also register for New Orleans UNAVSA 14.
Oh.
And it was funny because when I when I registered for UNAVSA 14, I was kind of on the fence of whether I should go or not because I didn't know what my summer would be like. So then it was funny because right when registration opened, I was just like, oh, I'll just go for it. And I just registered and I didn't know it was in such high demand. And then like, I think 14 minutes later, my region was like, oh yeah, it's sold out. And I'm like, oh, what? I just like did on a whim. My co-president at that time, she didn't even get a chance to register because they were sold out. So they didn't anticipate it to be sold out that quickly. And then it was an incredibly new experience for me being with leaders and people that are passionate with VSA from across North America. And then my family leader was Andre To, and he actually was he's a character, and he actually was really caring for our family. He kind of spoiled us with all of his gifts, and he kind of, despite being involved with so many things at UNAVSA, I believe he was core also in the fashion show, and there was just a bunch of things. He always made sure to check up on us, always made sure that we were bonding as a family, really got to know me on an individual level. And then post conference, he actually he continued on with the interactions. I feel really comfortable with him as like a family leader, and that's kind of something that I would want to do as a family leader, kind of get in touch with everyone, be informative as possible, and kind of make this conference experience worthwhile for the attendees, and kind of inspire attendees to do things within their own region and collectively grow within the UNAVSA region as leaders. So that's kind of like a long example of like what motivated me to become a family leader.
Sorry, I was laughing because Andre's my best friend actually.
Oh, really?
And I had helped him like make all of the it was Stitch, right?
Yes, yes.
All of like the Stitch like stuff, and I like had gone shopping with him, and so that was
Oh my god.
that was
Wait, so are you
that was
from
a
the
lot of time.
Northwest region?
I am from the
Oh,
Northwest,
okay.
yeah.
So,
That's awesome. I'm so glad that Andre gave you such a great experience. Bye, Vince. Um, and I wouldn't expect any less of Andre. So I'm really glad that was your experience with it. So the next question is, what qualifications or experiences make you the best choice for family leader?
yeah, so in terms of like qualifications and experiences, I have a really rich experience of being on VSA. I've been on VSA for like probably around 4 to 5 years. On top of that, I really in being involved on the regional level within my region, I always am visiting the universities and always trying to make sure I have a personal connection with the people within my region. And we actually, in actually going to UNAVSA, it inspired my board to create a summit. We actually never had a summit before, a leadership summit in our region before, besides kind of like a small scale one done like probably like 5 to 6 years ago. So we wanted to bring that back to our region. And then in terms of that experience, I realized how involved, how like in depth there is with like programming, and like kudos to like all the committees on UNAVSA, because you guys are doing like an amazing job organizing this such an experience. In terms of that, kind of I've known to like I've experienced working with a lot of groups, and because of that, I am able to like adapt to different kind of personalities, and I really like connecting with people on an individual level. So in terms of being able to empathize with individuals, or be able to inspire them and trying to find out more about them. In terms of being a family leader, I would be that person that kind of tries to go above and beyond and kind of know them on a personal level, so they kind of feel comfortable interacting with the group. I know from like last year, I didn't know anyone going into the conference besides the 2 attendees from my region. And coming into that initial Google Hangouts call, I was like incredibly nervous. I didn't know what to expect. And um, like going into that Google Hangout, it was a little nerve-wracking, but Andre did his best to like personally message me before and like kind of interact with me. And then I was kind of comfortable with that. I knew that I had someone in that group. So in terms of qualifications for like a family leader, I would be able to kind of bridge that gap and make my whole family comfortable. And I'm always willing to I'm always willing to be persistent in terms of if I know that if my family group isn't going as well as I hope for, I'm not afraid to like ask, oh bless you, times two. But I'm not afraid to like go to past family leaders or current family leaders to see what they're doing that's working or not, and kind of adapt that into my own like family group. Besides that, yeah, I believe that's like the qualifications I do have.
That's awesome. Sorry, it's allergy season.
Oh yeah, it's
And
really bad over here too. It started warming up.
I live like down a valley, and so we get all of the pollen, and it's like the worst in the country.
Oh, that's so
And
bad.
so I'm like dying inside a little bit. But that's fine. You're doing great, so that's all that matters. So how would you approach a situation in which a family member is like sort of a little bit more reserved, they're more shy, and like kind of unwilling to participate in activities? Like, how would you go about that situation?
Yeah, for sure. So in terms of going about that situation, I know that everybody's different, and kind of the family programming or the way that conference is set up, it may over kind of the more outgoing individuals may overshadow the more kind of quiet individuals. In terms of if I noticed that someone was kind of feeling left out or like was more quiet, I would first kind of reach out to them on an individual level. I know that reaching out in a group setting isn't the best thing to do because that kind of puts that individual at the forefront. And in terms of doing that, that might kind of perpetuate the notion of like them not being involved with the family group or feeling uncomfortable. So as a family leader, I would reach out to them personally and try to talk to them, kind of get to know them a bit first before I raise up the any like issues that are going on. And then in getting to know them first, that kind of establishes that personal connection, that kind of relatability. And then I would try to ask them like, oh, like if you can make it out to these events, that'd be really great. And kind of talk about the aspects of the event. One thing that Andre did really well last year was he was trying to hype up the events, but it wasn't simply like, oh, come to the after set or like come to the family games. He was like, oh, come to this, like there's this and this and this and this. So he really appealed to the different personalities in our group. So as a family leader, I would personally message individuals or even like do the group calls and kind of had the incentive to when I'm promoting like the programming at UNAVSA, I would kind of pull in like aspects related to the programming and kind of try to appeal it to multiple kind of different personalities. So there is incentive to go to these things. I know that as an attendee last year, I wasn't really sure what exactly was different types of programming. So, oh, oh no.
You're fine. It's just I have to move around before they like turn off all the lights.
Okay. Should I continue going?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So in terms of kind of educating the my family members about the programming, I would try my best to make sure they're well informed as much as possible. With me last year, I didn't really know what any of the programming was, so Andre did a really good job on that. It really motivated me to go out to all these events, and also like um, forming those initial connections is really key. So I would do a lot of precautionary measures, such as try to have as many meetings as feasible pre-conference to kind of establish that initial relationship. And even during conference, I try to foster those relationships so that that person may not feel left out if they're a little less outgoing than the other individuals.
Sorry, awesome. Okay, and then what would you do to like encourage interaction within your family? So like within um, the group and like with each other, not necessarily just like with you and the family.
Yeah, so in terms of encouraging interactions between like my family members, what I would do is really hone in that emphasis on the pre-conference experience. So I know that last year there were a lot of Google Hangouts. We had like a social media, various social media platforms to chat on, such as like Snapchat, um, Facebook Messenger, Facebook group. And I know that there may be some individuals that may not have access to these social media platforms. So I tried my best to kind of find a platform that everybody has so that everybody can feel included in the discussion. Because if there's a few individuals that do feel left out, they may not interact with others during conference time. During conference time, I would um, I try my best to interact with the family members and try to see if there's like commonality shared between everyone. I know like something that I've used in the past to help people bond together would be like K-pop. So a way that Andre and I kind of bonded was I like K-pop a lot and he loves Twice. I think his room is like showered with like posters of Twice everywhere. So it's like slightly cringy, but like, but that's Andre. That's part of Andre. And like to be honest, like I'm kind of that cringe as well. So I love K-pop a lot. So that's how we bonded. That's how some of my family members bonded. So in terms of getting them to interact with each other, I'd find like some common interests or hobbies so that they can bond together. I know that a lot of my members bonded because of being foodies, and New Orleans was really big on food. So that's another way we can bond through having lunch or dinner during outings and during our free time. So I know that that's a good way to kind of bond during conference experience. And even if people do feel like programming may be overwhelming, I will respect their decision because there's a lot of things going on and they may not want to go to everything that's in the programming, and that's okay. It's just in the end of the experience, I would like to kind of empower them as leaders and try to form those like lifelong friendships or friendships after conference. I know some of the members of my family, we still talk to this day, so that's really nice. That's really nice and shows how like good of a family leader Andre was. And I would try to wouldn't just make that experience during conference, but I try to develop those relationships post conference too, because it's really nice it's really nice to network with people from um, across North America, and and inspire others and subsequent generations to do good for their regions.
Awesome. I'm so glad that like Andre has given you such a great experience. I'm definitely very proud of him and all the work that he's done. Um, Definitely why we're best friends. I can't wait to tell him about this already.
He doesn't know I applied too. I
so
was trying to do this thing about applying. I was like, so Andre, can you tell me about how your like family leader experience was? And then
wow.
like the pros, cons, as well as like words of advice. I think that he thought because he knew that I think he knew that I was a family leader for my region's summit, but I
Yeah.
think he knew I was asking about that, but I don't think he like made that connection that I was applying to be a family leader.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be so proud and so happy that one of his little babies and is like applying to be a family leader because he loves family committee and he loves like being a part of this.
That's great to
So
hear.
he's very proud. So just a couple more questions.
Sure.
So describe a time that you ran into like a problem and how did you solve it? And you had to solve it. How did you overcome that?
Yeah, so one of the problems that I actually ran into was while I was like co-president of my regional VSA. Um, one of the reasons why I went to UNAVSA conference was trying to like figure out a solution to the conflict and trying to learn from the American VSAs because I know that the American VSAs have so much support from the community, and with regards to like the Eastern Canada region, we're still kind of like growing and trying to like establish those and foster those relationships within our community. So one of the conflicts that did arise the um, was related to the Vietnamese community, and it was involving like the freedom flag. So with our region, according to our like constitution, we're like a non-political region, and I'm sorry, a non-political association, and we want to provide like resources and education for international students as well as like non-international students. And we felt like kind of getting political would kind of make the international students feel a little ostracized because at the end of the day, we are trying to help Vietnamese people come together within our region. So we talked with a lot of alumni about this situation, and there was a situation where like the Vietnamese Association of Toronto, they said they would boycott our event if we didn't like raise any of the flags. And at that, we felt that we talked with a lot of international committees about how they felt about that, about us raising the flag, and they felt like they would feel a little left out because they weren't so used to the flag. And I know there's like a lot of history surrounding April like 30th, and as well as like the freedom flag and the communism flag. And personally, for me, I'm for like the freedom flag, but because of our constitution and because of our non-political associations, we decided not to associate with like the political stances. And we managed to like compromise with the Vietnamese Association of Toronto. We were saying how we would support our endeavors as individuals, but as an association, we couldn't really do that because we wanted to be fair for everyone in the community, and we wanted to provide resources for not only non-international students but also international students. So in the end, after hearing our stance as well as like reading our statements, we were willing to compromise, and at like April 30th events or even events that involves the flag, we would be attending as individuals and not as representatives of UPSA. And they understood that, and they felt like everybody was okay with those terms. And I believe that as long as there is support and we're showing it as individuals, and if we are involved with like conflict situations, it's important to hear both sides, and we heard their stance too, and kind of come to a compromise in the end. Because if we don't hear out both sides, then it's really hard to come to a conflict resolution based off of not hearing those sides.
Yeah, definitely understand that fully. It's definitely a hard situation, especially when you want to be inclusive, but
Mhm.
it's just really hard to please everyone. So I'm glad that you found a
For sure.
compromise. Um, so how would your peers describe your personality, and like how would your coworkers describe your work ethics?
Yeah, so in terms of my peers and my friends as well as my family, they always describe me as being extremely supportive. I'm always that individual that is willing to go above and beyond to help out my friends. They can even message me like late at night, like 3 a.m., or like call me in the middle of the night, wake me up, and I would be there for emotional support. In terms of like being, I'm really like reliable as a person. So if my friends do ask me for like advice or even for like favors, I'm always there for my friends, and that kind of goes along with being incredibly like loyal to my friends. And if I do like establish a connection with people, I want to make it meaningful. It's not um, and like conference experience, I met so many passionate individuals, and like I like making those like connections with the individuals. Even when I went to the core tree and meeting all the council of regional representatives, um, I made the effort to like kind of PM them after conference and telling them how like amazing they were at the retreat, and just like forming those connections really inspires me to like be more than I am, and kind of push myself as a person, and kind of grow as a person. And I like in terms of another description my peers would like describe me as is I like to take a lot of um, risks. I don't like kind of being involved, being like doing like the same thing repeatedly over and over again. If I'm in like a professional situation, I would like adhere to what I am told, but like I do like taking risks in terms of being like really spontaneous and going on like adventures, whether it be like hanging out with friends or even like when I applied, registered to UNAVSA-14 incredibly last minute and kind of made that sporadic decision. In terms of my work ethic, I would describe myself as extremely like persistent. I will do whatever, like if something isn't going as I would like to, I would do whatever I can to like try to make it work. Whether it is like seeking advice from like alumni or seeking advice from people that have held that position in the past. I don't really have any shame involved with like asking. And um, also, yeah, so in terms of my work ethic, it's really persistent, and um, I'm really hardworking as an individual, and I kind of owe it to my parents because we most of us have like that boat story of like our parents coming from Vietnam and kind of starting off a life from nothing, and I kind of owe it all to my parents to kind of shape me as an individual and um, kind of not be like um, always kind of having a working towards a common goal. So that kind of taught me to be really persistent and hardworking as an individual, and kind of seeing like the positivity in life, even if life um, seems a little negative at that time. I won't let that shut me down, but I will take that as a learning experience and kind of develop myself as an individual from there.
That's great. I'm really glad that that's how you see life, because that's how I see it too. I think that
Uh,
anything that kind of sets you back is just a learning opportunity to do it better the next time around.
mhm,
So that's really
sure.
awesome. Um, so do you have any questions for family committee? Do you have any questions for me? Do you want any embarrassing stories about Andre? I have
Oh,
tons of those.
yes. So like I guess for my questions with regards to family programming is I noticed that there were like commitments pre-conference and like meetings with the potential family members. So I was trying to access the application from before, but the Wufoo or whatever platform you use said the application was closed. But I was wondering what the commitment is again, if you can like refresh me on that.
Yeah. So if you were to get a family leader position, um, you will be meeting with either Vince or I and some of the other committee members to kind of go over what your role will look like, some trainings that'll probably be spread out over like 1 or 2 meetings. We'll be doing some like hospitality trainings with y'all. And then it's kind of up to your discretion how much time you really want to commit to pre-conference interactions with your family.
Yeah,
And it seems like you're willing to dedicate quite a bit of time to doing that. So
for sure.
that's totally up to you. We're really flexible. We're all very busy. We're all students as well.
Mhm.
And so working around like time scheduling is something that we'll probably try to do with you. And if like none of the times work, we'll probably do an individual, like a one-on-one thing. So we're very, very flexible. Time commitment is pretty low. I think we will probably meet with family leaders a couple of times pre-conference.
Okay,
I don't have the exact number, but I can get back
no
to you on
worries.
that if you do want an exact number.
For sure. That'd be great.
Yeah, of course.
Another question I was wondering is, I kind of like creeped the past like family leader like reveals, and I noticed that the theme was kind of released before like the actual. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like the questions kind of alluded to the themes. So I noticed like in previous years it was like, what like Super Mario character would you be, or like um, what what's your favorite like Disney movie? So I was just wondering if the questions this year kind of alluded to the theme, like maybe it would be a foodie theme. I don't know if you can release that to me yet.
um, Unfortunately, I am not at liberty to say what the theme is. However,
So,
I will tell you that the questions are not related
oh, okay.
to the theme. But I will say that the theme probably will make you very happy. So
Oh, okay.
I'll leave you with that.
All right. It'd be funny if it's K-pop.
Not K-pop, but
But okay.
do you have any
Yeah.
other questions for me?
Um. Yeah. This is just kind of a question of like curiosity.
Sure.
I noticed that there's like I believe there's like 5 or 6 people on the family programming committee. So I was just wondering how you like divvy up the roles, because you said like Vincent yourself would like meet with the family leaders. So
Yeah. So we've all kind of split up. So family kind of consists of family games.
oh, okay.
So like the games that you play with your family when you go like from room to room. And then there's the Jachai Lung, which is all of the games that you play in like the big rooms with like all the families all at once. And then logistical side of it would be this, interviewing for family leaders,
Mhm.
sorting out families. So who goes into what families, going through like those preliminary questions that we ask you at registration of, oh, do you feel like you're an extrovert? Do you feel like you're an introvert? So we have 6 people on our committee, 7 including Kenny, who is the director. So
Okay.
it's 2 per committee, and we kind of split it up kind of like that, and we kind of just play on whose strengths lies where, and where we can really work the strongest. And so Vince and I kind of have taken over family sorting and working out like family leader applications and like going through that process.
Mhm.
Everyone kind of helps out with the family leader interviews because there is quite a bit of them, and Vince and I don't have all the time in the world to interview
Yeah, for
everyone.
sure.
um, and then Yvette and Ryan do a lot of the Jachai Lung game plannings, and then Theo and Anthony are doing the rest of the family games.
Okay, well, that's cool. Um, I was also wondering if you what experience like you had in terms of being on like family prior to like being on like family programming.
So my only experience with family besides this is being a family leader myself for my region's camp. And I actually didn't enjoy being a family leader as much as I thought I would. In all honesty, it was just a lot of energy, and I'm more of a like behind the ground, like behind the scenes background person. Like I'd rather be doing everything else behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed doing that, and so I figured that would be a really great role for me. And so I've actually, this is my second UNAVSA that I've been on staff, my fourth one overall, I think. I've been involved with my like UVSA, with my regional, and all the way up into UNAFSA. And last year was supposed to be my last one. I was like, I'm done. And then Kenny, I was like, Kenny, if you become a director, whatever director it is for whatever committee, I will join you on that committee. And so he was like, I want to do family. I want to be a family director. And I was like, okay, I will be on your family with you. And so that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, sometimes like you think you're done with VSA and then like
nope.
motivates you to come back again. That's kind of like my experience with like VSA in my region. Like after being on like UVSA Ontario for a year, I was like, well, I just want to do VSA for like one more year, and then after like that, Michelle, like she's my co-president. She's also named Michelle Nguyen as well. She was like, oh, let's run for like co-president of our region. I'm like, oh, okay, sure, why not? So then that was kind of shaped by like my experiences with like UNAVSA, as well as like not kind of wanting to let go of like the whole like family aspect of VSA. So yeah, and now like after being on co-president, I want to get more involved with UNAVSA. So that's kind of like, yeah, I want to be more involved within like the within like UNAVSA now.
That's awesome. I feel like UNAVSA has definitely changed my outlook on a lot of things, and I love being a part of this organization. And you know, you mentioned that making friends like all across the continent, and that's like totally true. Like I feel like I can pick up and kind of go anywhere and just send someone a text and be like, hey, I'm gonna be at the airport at this time, can you come pick me up? Can I like crash on your couch? And everyone's like, yeah, come on, like let's do this, like let's totally, like it'll be great. Like I was in LA like a week and a half ago for Coachella, but Kenny also happens to be from LA, and so I was like, Kenny, let's hang out, let's go get dinner. And he was, you know, he was right there to come get us, and so that was like super cool.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions for me, or is that one that was the last one?
I think that was the last one. You pretty much like covered everything really comprehensively, so I really appreciate that.
Of course.
As far as like the Andre embarrassing stories, like for another time if you're like free.
Yeah, of course. Feel free to message me on Facebook. I have plenty of embarrassing pictures of Andre, embarrassing stories. Like, I do have one last question for you.
Oh yes.
If you had an arch enemy, what would they use as your kryptonite to expose your greatest weakness?
Okay. I don't like to think of myself as having an enemy. I like to try to like make sure I have good relations with everyone. But in terms of if I had an arch enemy and trying to like kind of expose my weakness, is I have like a soft spot for like establishing connections with my friends and family. So then a weakness would be kind of being away from them and kind of that support system. So if they can cut off like physical ties or like social media ties with like everyone, then I would kind of be like a mess because I kind of experienced this when I went to a mission trip in Vietnam. So part of my master's is I did a practicum in Vietnam, and I also presented my research in India. And the whole like tenure was like 3 months of being away from family, being away from friends with like little Wi-Fi. So I was actually in like a rural like highland region in Vietnam when I was doing my practicum. And while it was nice making connections with people in Vietnam, it was really hard to understand them because I'm like from Vietnam and they're in Minh Chôm. So like it's really hard to understand the accent, but it wasn't even like the middle, the central accent, but it was like a localized accent within the highlands of the central Vietnam. So it was really hard to communicate, and like the different time zones and communicating with my friends from like in Canada as well as like in the States, it was really hard to keep in touch with them, really hard to keep in touch with family. So then I was really looking forward to like going back to where in Canada where I had like that support system. So in terms of like my weaknesses, like if like my arch enemy cut off ties with everything, then I would be a mess because I believe like with human interactions is really it's really nice to have that support system, and without that support system it would be really hard to like function as like a human personally for me. So that's my weakness.
Okay. That's a great answer, nonetheless. Um, that is all I have for you today, and then unless you have another question,
Okay.
since then,
No,
we're gonna.
yeah, I'd just like to say like sorry for like prolonging this interview. I know it was
Oh
supposed to be
no.
like 10, 15 minutes long.
Oh,
So
you're totally fine.
okay. But yeah, I believe
Alrighty.
that's everything I have.
Yeah. So we will be finishing up interviews within the next week or so, and
Mhm.
you will hear back around then. You won't need to reach out to us. We'll reach out to you. But
Okay.
thank you so much for your time, and I really enjoyed talking to
Thank
you
you.
today. So have a great
Thank you.
rest of your day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you too. Bye.
Bye.